Remember the big SkEye house?
Yeah.
So the a couple of weeks ago, I don't know if I told you that we were in at the end of the coaching group. There we're in our pods with four other guys, and I was just articulating how I feel uh what's the word, embarrassed to even admit or to state that I want a house like that because I
Mm.
feel like unworthy of, like, you're 33, Chris. Like, you can't have a $2.4 million house. Like, that's so irresponsible. That's possible, whatever, you know. So I'm telling this to the guys, and they all, with the rah energy of the group, they're like, basically, like, you can fucking get that house. And I'm like, yeah, okay. But like, if I had the ability to take on $2.4 million of debt and the bank was going to do that, why would I not put it into something that's going to generate, $200,000 of revenue a year, instead of just sitting on that?
Yeah.
Anyways, I feel like, so one of the guys, it's kind of a long rambling story, but I feel that, like, today I'm meeting with Randy, who is one of the guys that was in that group, and we're talking about um, creative financing things, model, or like ways to, like, pull things off that are outside of like a conventional loan.
Yeah, totally.
The reason I'm bringing this up is because I'm thinking I'm trying to find the balance between uh like what, like, that's like, you don't deserve this, you can't have that, whatever. It's like there's stress, or that's small minded, or whatever you want to call it. But then there's the other side of me of like, well, you can have it. It's just going to take, it's going to be a lot of stress. Probably not going to be good for your health. There's all this pressure. But then that also is like, well, who says that you have to be stressed to have a $2 million house? So it's like, how do I continue to have a growth mindset towards my current thought or belief? I think, and this is like, I feel like we are going to have that house or a house very similar to that house someday. Like, that is something that I believe in, or I believe that it's possible for us to do.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think, how do I create that reality without all of the downsides that I'm projecting onto what that would take? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's like the visualization of, like, one of our friends, when I was telling them this story, like, I've just been talking about this because it's, to me, it seems like a fantastic physical thing that you can use as a story to
Hmm.
explain to people. And one of our friends sent us an Andy Frisella podcast talking about how he now lives in a house. I can't remember the American history, but it's pretty crazy story of how he gets this house. And but he had, like, basically visualized and walked by the house ever since he was in high school and was like, that's a fucking huge house. I want that house. And he, like, found out who the owner was and messaged the owner every year on like his birthday or something like that. I was like, hey, if you ever sell the house, let me know. And 10 years go by and he now lives in that house. And so it's like, that to me is like a really cool story. And so there's a part of me that's like, I want to have a cool story like that. But there's this balance of like, I don't want to make irrational financial decisions, but why am I telling myself that getting a house like that would be an irrational financial decision? Because it's like, well, it's just based on time. If I got it this week, it would be a bad decision. But if I got it in a couple of years, it might not be. But I also don't know how much money I can make in the next year. It's just like back and forth on that. So I
Yep.
guess I'm just throwing that out there of like, I still am very motivated by the idea of achieving something that I feel like is impossible, which is the house for me. But
Love it.
in the I don't want to achieve it at the cost of my own health, of my own lack of presence in my family, um, of basically just falling into what I view as what is required to get it.
Yeah.
And then the inverse of that means, but that doesn't mean that I can't have that goal. You know what I'm saying? So I'm
Absolutely.
trying to
So,
dance between that. And like today, I'm going to lunch with Randy to talk about creative financing because it's just like I'm percolating. It's like it's in the back of my mind. This other guy who was in that group was like, dude, let's just go look at the house. Let's just, like, get in the house. Like, that's not, like, why not? I was like, yeah, we can do that. But then it's that balance of like, you know what I mean? So that's just what's on my mind of like amidst all this stuff,
How
I'm
much
still
time?
like
How much time do you have?
about 5 minutes before I walk in, and then I might be waiting in the waiting room for a minute, so it could go a little longer potentially.
Okay,
But
so
go ahead.
this balance is like such like you're the only one that's going to know how to walk this out. But there's a few things that's so critical, in my opinion, and it's about faith and trust in God. And interestingly enough, it's about finding the peace in the storm. And what I mean by that is a peace that surpasses all understanding, and accessing that when making decisions that seem really, really scary.